it anywhere with Cowboy Joe. He'll walk you through the concepts on the go. With any device you've got to see the show. Cowboy Joe. Cowboy Joe.
Oh, hey, what's going on? Cowboy Joe here with a recapitulation of 2.30. This one's on position time graph. So we're going to advance our understanding of physics and try to create position time graphs from data that we collected. So that's your goal for today, to develop a special type of graph called a position time graph for a moving object. And then we're going to use the position time graphs to interpret an object's position or displacement and make position time graphs that are equivalent representations of particle models that we've already talked about. So let's start with how do we get a position time graph? Well, it comes from the data collection of time and position. Doesn't matter which way you collect data. On a position time graph, you want to have the time on the horizontal axis for a special reason you'll find out in the next section. So for right now, we collect data one way. It looks like this data was collected by manipulating the time. So after 1 second, this object traveled 5 meters. After 2, it traveled 10. But it's kind of difficult to manipulate the time if your eyes are looking at your stopwatch and not looking at the position that the object is moving, unless you have a video. So a video, you can collect data like this, but if you have a stopwatch in your hand, it might be easier to manipulate the distance and use your thumb to just start and stop the stopwatch. But this is called a position time data table. And when you plot it on a graph with the time on the x-axis, remember wise up, double meaning, W-I-S-E, up, and y-axis is up. So if you remember to wise up, you'll never forget which one goes where. So in a position time graph, you got to remember that the time is on the x and the position is on the y. Don't skip, don't start your y-axis at 25, then your dots and everything would be manipulated a little bit, and you may interpret the relationship of the graph incorrectly. So make sure your scales are evenly spaced. For example, from this line to this next line, we have 5 meters. And from this line to the next line, we have 5 meters, and so on and so forth. Each is the same. Same with on the bottom, we have each line representing 1 second. So you want to keep that consistent. You just got to figure out what scale matches your data best. So look at the biggest numbers and try to space them out evenly to that biggest number on each axis. But this is what a position time graph looks like. And this is a linear relationship here. It could come out many different types of relationships. But we can look at this position time graph and can get some information from the graph. For example, maybe your instantaneous position. What is your position after 3 seconds? After 3 seconds of collecting data, your instantaneous position would be, well, here's 3, go straight up to the graph and go straight across. It would be 15 meters. You are 15 meters away from where you started collecting the data. So we can get that instantaneous position from a position time graph. So how do you connect that to what you've already looked at in section 2.10? Well, let me show you. On these particle models, we can get which one was the position axes? I'm giving you time to figure this out. Which axes did you put the position on, the distance on? There it is. It's coming to you now. Right. Not the horizontal. On the motion, on the particle model, it's the horizontal axis, but on the motion diagram, it's the vertical. So they actually take a rotation of 90 degrees to create whichever way you're going. You're going to have to either lay that thing down or stand her back up, that position scale. So for this transition, we're going to take that horizontal axes, which represents the position, and we're going to make it the vertical axes on our position time graph. So now how do we get the time data? So each dot is in 1 second intervals. So 0, 0 is a point, and then after 1 second, it's like 25. After 2 seconds, it's a little bit more than 40, so on and so forth. And we will create our position time graph so we can figure out where the time is based on the dots. And in the words, it tells you what the interval of the dots are for a particle model. So, and we can go in the other direction as well. From a position time graph, we can go to a particle model. So we got 20, 40, 60, 80. Let's make that vertical, the horizontal. You're always going to be switching at 90 degrees whenever you go from one to the other. Now that represents our position, and now we have our time interval. So let's see, at 1 second, well, 0, 0, and at 1 second it's 20. It looks like it goes up evenly, 20, 40, 60, 80. We got easy graphs to interpret, but it could be a curve or whatever, and the dots could have gaps that are uneven, small at the beginning and then bigger. That illustrates something else we're going to be talking about later. Those gaps tell us something. If they're evenly spaced, then the car's moving at a constant, we'll get to that later. And if there's spacing, if that spacing gets bigger and smaller, it means something else. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. But for this skill, all we got to do is be able to go from one to the other. And also, I would hope you'd be able to determine whether they represent the same motion. So looking at them both, you can look at one and come up with a data point. Maybe let's look at the position time graph. This is x comma y. This would be 1 comma 20. And then come down here and see at 1 second interval, is it a 20? Well, that's not enough to determine if they represent the same, so pick another one. Let's say 3 comma 60. So it's 3. This is 0 time. This is 1 second, 2 second, 3 is on the 60. So you got 2 points. It's a line. They represent the same. So now let's answer some questions pertaining to a position time graph. Can you answer questions? Well, first question, I just flashed the answer to you. When did the runner, whose motion is described in the figure below, reach 30 meters beyond the starting point? Well, 30 meters beyond where you started collecting data would be right here. You go straight horizontal over to the line, and then you drop straight down to get that answer of 6 seconds. Let's look at another question. Where was he after 4.5 seconds? We wouldn't want to go 4.5 here because that thing that follows that number, that S, represents seconds. And this scale has meters. So we want to go down to this one, 4.5, somewhere right here. Go straight up and then go straight horizontal to get the answer to that question. All right, here we go again here. Let's continue our discussion, this motion detector challenge. We have to create these graphs in class by standing in front of a motion detector. A motion detector is a little tiny detector that will send out pings and return those pings and determine the distance you are away from the detector. So, and it'll produce a graph for you if you program it to. Now, what your goal in class was to create an increasing linear line by doing something in front of that motion detector. Well, what you have to do is imagine this scale representing how far you are away from that detector. So down here, 0 far away from the detector would be almost standing right on the detector. If you get too close, though, it gets fuzzy and it'll zigzag back and forth. You have to move a little bit away in order for it to register the sonar ping a little better. So to create the increasing line, get as close as you can and walk away from the detector. As time goes on, you are getting a greater distance away from the detector. So that would produce your increasing linear line. Now, if you look at the decreasing linear line, and this scale represents the distance you are away, so if this was a 3 right beside where this line starts, you would have to, maybe it's 3 meters, you would have to measure 3 meters and start 3 meters away from the detector. So if you're 3 meters away and you are walking towards the detector, as time goes on, your distance to the detector decreases. So down at the bottom, as soon as you hit this horizontal line, you'd be at the detector. So we would have to start a distance away and walk towards it. Now, both these two graphs right here are linear. Linear means that it creates a line. It's a relationship between two variables. that produces a straight line. In order to do that, your pace has to be consistent. You have to walk at a casual pace. You don't want to run and slow down or start slow and speed up. Now this one here, let's look at this third one, a horizontal line. To produce that, let's say this number beside on the distance axis is a 4 meters away. So if we are 4 meters away and we start collecting data, well, at 1 second, we want to be 4 meters away. At 2 seconds, we want to be 4 meters away. At 10 seconds, we want to be 4 meters away. If you just stand in front of it and don't move, you will produce a horizontal line, the same distance away from the detector. So this one's a little bit easier. Now this one at the end, you have to actually start at the detector, 0 distance away from the detector at 0 time, and when you start collecting data, you need to start moving away from the detector, and you're gaining more distance as time goes on. So with this one, you want to start at a slow pace and increase your pace, and you'll produce this curve upward or the quadratic line. So that is how we produce those lines. All right, so let's talk about these graphs a little bit. So imagine this describing the motion of a car. So this car is moving, and instead of the motion detector, let's say it is you that is standing there. And if I ask you a couple questions, like how far away is the car when you first started collecting data, the answer would be here right at the beginning. At 0 time, you'd have to go up and be at about 125 meters away. And if I asked you what direction would it be going, toward or away from you, you could actually say, since it's getting lower, since it's going down, it's coming towards you. And then I could ask you, at what point would you have to jump into the air so that you could save your life? Well, at that point, 5 seconds, that you and this car would be at the same position. So at 5 seconds, no, I would recommend like about 4.5. So you're at your peak of your jump at 5 seconds. That way the car would zip right on underneath you, provided you can get high enough. So let's assume the positive D direction is east on this one. Oh, there it is, east. When the car was 25 meters east of the origin, when was this car 25 meters east of the origin? Well, if this is east, then this would be the opposite of east, which would be west. So 25 meters east of the origin would be right here. So the question said when. So that's a time answer. So we would come straight horizontal over to the graph and drop straight down to give our answer. Where was the car? At 1 second. So at 1 second. So here it is at 1 second after we started collecting data. Started 125 meters away from you, but at 1 second, it would be 100 meters away from you east. So we can answer all kinds of questions looking at these graphs. For example, if we were to look at this, we have two pedestrians walking. Pedestrian A, pedestrian B. That axis, this horizontal axis, is still your time axis. But this point right here represents where High Street intersects it. This is not a road. This is a time axis on this graph. But this is the point where Broad Street and High Street meet. So if you're standing right at that origin, watching these two pedestrians walk, we could discuss their motion. So first of all, if you were to describe pedestrian A, you would have to face west and say he is traveling toward you. He's getting closer toward you, so he's actually traveling east. So pedestrian A would be traveling east, not whatever direction you think this is, southwest, east-west, north-south, whatever. He would be traveling east. In this graph, you're either traveling east or you're traveling west. There's no other way. Remember, this is your time axis, and this is the point where High Street and Broad Street meet. So imagine, to create this graph, there was a drone videotaping the motion of these two pedestrians on the top of this intersection. If you stretched out that video, on a time axis, then you would create this graph. If the people were green slugs and they left a trail, maybe they were painting a path with a ruler. If you just stretch that out, well, in real life on the drone video, they would be walking straight down this path. That's what it would look like, and pedestrian A would be going in this direction. But if we stretched it out like an accordion over a time axis, then it would produce this position time graph. So pedestrian A starts west of your location, but is traveling east. Pedestrian B starts east of where you're standing and is traveling west. So where would pedestrian A and pedestrian B be able to give each other a high five? Well, hopefully you're thinking right here at this intersection, and it would be a little bit west of the intersection of High Street and Broad Street. A little bit west. This is where the intersection is. So we got to be able to understand graphs. Easier questions. Where's runner B past runner A? When are they in the same position, same time? All you got to do is read the intersection point, which would be 190 meters away from where you started collecting data and 45 seconds later. It looks like runner B gave runner A a head start. He said, go ahead, little brother, move out 50 meters. I'll let you start ahead of me. So he started 50 meters behind where they started collecting data, or what like the motion detector would be. So that's it. That's what we had to figure out today. Position time graphs. We created them with a motion detector in our heads. In class, you did it in real life. Answer questions about motion, position time graphs, and you got to be able to go from a particle model to a position time graph and vice versa. So that's it for 230. Good luck. Till next time.
Cowboy Joe. Cowboy Joe.